Aloha, my name is Captain Derek George. I am the Environmental Director here at Marine Corps Base Hawaii. As Marines, we carry great pride and respect for the history and traditions of our beloved Corps. This base was activated as a naval installation in 1941, prior to the U.S. entry into World War II. And then in 1952, Kaneohe was established as a Marine Corps Air Station. Many visitors to the base are unaware that there is an earlier chapter to the history of this beautiful place we call Mōkapu.
The day-to-day activities of Marine Corps Base Hawaii are readily apparent to anyone on the peninsula. Not so apparent, however, are remnants of earlier histories. In fact, all of Mōkapu could be thought of as one huge archaeological site containing evidence of eras and cultures dating back 1,000 years. These include the earliest military activities, farming and ranching from the 18th and 19th centuries, house lots from the early 20th century, and a traditional Hawaiian culture that existed here for hundreds of years before Western contact. These cultural assets create a very special place, one rich in history, and currently under the stewardship of the United States Marines. There are federal and state laws designed to protect and preserve these cultural assets. These laws prohibit such things as digging anywhere on base without a permit, and prohibitions against the disturbance or removal of any archaeological site or artifact. The Marine Corps is committed to the enforcement of these laws and to the preservation of the cultural assets from all these eras, identified and yet to be identified. Every Marine and their dependents assigned to Marine Corps Base Hawaii has a responsibility to at least have a basic understanding of these assets and the laws protecting them. But the ultimate responsibility for their protection and preservation falls fully with the Environmental Compliance and Protection Department. Captain Derek George is the director.
The Environmental Compliance and Protection Department is responsible for facilitating training and ensuring that we comply with all environmental laws from natural resources, endangered species protection, cultural resources, archaeological collection and protection, hazardous material management, hazardous waste management, and also compliance with clean air, clean water, and other permit processes required by state and federal laws. For the most part, this department is made up of professionals that have been here for 10, 15, 20, and in some cases 30 years. So the continuity of what they have as far as experience has been a great help and a great facilitator for the training, because the Marines look at the professionals as the experts, and what that does, it builds the trust and confidence in the leadership that we as an environmental department understand what our requirements are, and they trust that the professionalism of the employees in this department are going to make the right decisions to ensure that the Marines can train and that we stay in compliance with the law.
June Noelani Cleghorn is the Senior Cultural Resources Manager for Base Environmental.
So most of the remnants that we have of early occupation of Mōkapu Peninsula are evidence of campsites which now are basically what we call subsurface or underground. And the places where the Hawaiians were setting up their campsites, say 600 years ago, were along the coastline, the fish ponds, also in the wetland areas. And so really these are the extra sensitive areas where we can't have any ground disturbing activities, which is digging. If they are digging something up, there's a possibility they might turn up remnants of an old site, even remnants of, say, a 600-year-old burial. Human remains might turn up. But we try to get with them before any of these activities start by giving them briefs and introductions about where they are, the physical environment, the cultural environment. And in that manner, we hope to get the word out about the important resources here on the peninsula and prevent this type of ground disturbing activity.
But if something does happen, by accident or otherwise, it can have a direct impact on your personal military career. Gordon Oliva is the Federal Conservation Law Enforcement Officer for Marine Corps Base Hawaii.
What they don't understand is not just civil, it's also criminal, which means that if you get a petty misdemeanor charge, yeah, it may be a petty misdemeanor. But if you're an individual responsible for sensitive information, you need a top secret clearance or some kind of clearance. Getting a petty misdemeanor citation for something like thrown net fishing, which is a criminal offense, it could compromise your ability to get your secret clearance or a sensitive clearance in some way, shape, or form. So it's really important for each person to understand that these are very serious laws. We take it very serious. The Marine Corps is very proactive in assuring that people are compliant with all statutes relating to resources aboard the installation.
Perhaps even more significant, disturbing a cultural site can impact the training of hundreds of your fellow Marines. Daniel Geltmacher is the Marine Corps Base Hawaii Range and Training Area Manager.
The primary mission of the Marines while they're on the peninsula is to train. A big part of that mission is understanding the rules and regulations to utilize the ranges and training areas. And through ignorance or an accident, one person or a Marine disturbs a cultural site, the training area will be shut down while we conduct an investigation to determine how that accident or that disturbance occurred. So if you disturb a site, that training area will be closed, and we will investigate, and it won't be opening up, and that could adversely impact 100, even 1,000 Marines. So if we're not training, then you're not accomplishing your primary mission. So Marines, get it right. Understand what the rules and regulations are and follow them, or we won't be training. Thank you.
The bottom line here at Marine Corps Base Hawaii is that we have an obligation to protect the resources and ensure that we can sustain not only the resources in the land here, but sustain our training for the years to come. The sustainment and the training that we are able to do here and the resources that we protect are for our kids, our grandkids, and the future of this great nation. So it's imperative for everyone involved here that participate in either the training, those that live here, to understand the cultural sensitivity and the cultural importance of what this peninsula provides for us, because at the end of the day, the training is the most important thing, and without the resources being protected, the training could be impeded.
Beyond the training, beyond the laws and regulations, there is another very important reason why the Marines are committed to this goal. For a very long time, Marine Corps Base Hawaii has worked with Native Hawaiian individuals, families, and groups with ancestral ties to the lands of Mōkapu. Hawaiians like Cy Harris, KK Papa, and Nalani Olds, among others, have offered and shared their knowledge and history of Mōkapu with the hopes of better cooperation and understanding with the Marines.
Working with the Native Hawaiian community here in Mōkapu is actually a force multiplier. What it does for us is it not only puts a face to the history here, but it also gives a perspective to the things that we may not understand as non-natives.
Cy Harris shares a story of Mōkapu handed down through his family for generations.
That island out there is Moku Mano, they call it, and that is the home of the shark Aumakua, Kuhai Moana, which is of my family, Aumakua. And there's supposed to be a deep cave underneath that island, and he travels between here and Kualoa. Kualoa and Mōkapu are related in that they are 2 points of a triangle that represent the energy to call a fish into this bay. And that's what the kahunas used to do. They would call the fish and open the fish ponds and ask the fish to come in, and that's what they would gather and then close the ponds, and the fish would be there, and that's how they would live. be able to catch fish whenever they needed to eat.
Nolani Olds tells a story of old Mōkapu she learned as a young girl.
This area, Mōkapu, which is now occupied by Marine Corps Base Hawaii, is a very special area, even in the times of old and ancient folklore and such, because this was a sacred area used only by chiefs. And if you look off down that way, past Pyramid Rock to the mountains down there, that is where Kualoa is, and that was another very sacred area. And the stories go that the chiefs traveled from Kualoa and came up this way to Mōkapu, and this was all a sacred area. This area all through the Kaneohe side and down to Kualoa. And this again was the area of the chiefs of old Hawaii, and it was said that there was great mana or great power here at Mōkapu, because this is looked at as being the piko, or the center, the core of this island of Hawaii. And some thoughts are even that this is where life on this island first began also, is right here at Mōkapu.
In 2003, Nolani participated in a workshop on cultural sensitivity for the Marines. It gave her the opportunity to present concepts of land and respect for ancestors from her perspective as a Hawaiian.
One of the things that I learned early on from my grandmother is that in the Hawaiian context of things, our past is not behind us. For a Hawaiian, for me, my past is in front of me, so that I can see where my grandmother and grandfather and where my mother and father walked, so that I can start to step out and take their place and follow that path. And so my past is before me and my future is behind me. Those are my children. They are watching too. And when the time comes, they will come up and step into my place, and they will continue on. So it's very important to know who I am and where I come from, so that I can continue to watch to see where my ancestors went, so that I can go and follow them. Aina means land, and we're not just talking about a physical piece of land there. We're talking about the cultural connotations of it as well, and what land means to Hawaiians. For all of those generations, we have lived, been born, lived, and died here. So the Aina for the Hawaiians is that which feeds us are the bones of our ancestors, because that's what makes up this earth that we stand on.
No matter all these things, regardless of these laws, Hawaiians believe in and live by the concept of pono. As long as I've worked with Marines, I've seen that they live by the same concept: do the right thing. Being somewhat of a liaison between Hawaiians and Marine Corps Base Hawaii, I've seen this same belief practiced by both Hawaiians and Marines. I've also seen they don't always think the other is doing what is right. But what's important is that we never leave the table. We continue to work together, looking back, being in the present, and heading into the future, trusting that good things will come for both of us.
I'd like to say that though these Marines are from elsewhere, once they come into our islands, we like to welcome them because they're part of our Aina, part of our Ohana family, and we like them to feel comfortable, not feel like foreigners or strangers. And that's why we have a cultural program going on now to explain to them part of what the Hawaiian people used to do and still do today in food, in language, in Hawaiian herbs. explain the history of Hawaii, so that they'll become a part of what we respect of the islands and why we respect it. And that would be totally awesome for them to feel part of us.
I would like to think that anyone who is here, who is serving in the Marine Corps or working here in any way and living here, would remember the main word that goes anywhere, from their homes, from wherever they come from, and that word is respect. And to always respect where it is you are and where it is you are living, and to know that you are taking care of the place where other generations who have passed on lived here and took care of, and to keep it and preserve it for those of future generations, so that especially those of us whose families come from here, our mo'opuna, our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren for nona kaua kau until the end of time will know how very special this place, Mōkapu, is.
You've just heard some great information, but please remember the two most important points. First, it is illegal to dig anywhere on the base without a permit. And second, it is illegal to damage archaeological features or to remove cultural material, including bones, from the base. If you have any questions about cultural resources, please make sure you contact the Environmental Department immediately. Mahalo for your cooperation, and Semper Fidelis.